Welcome to the show. You're listening to The Ecosystem, where we talk with the world's most exceptional entrepreneurs, investors, and emerging growth companies who are all making a difference in the world. The purpose is to be educated, spark a thought, and understand how the ecosystem all work together. All of this brought to you by the team at Fund. This is your host, RJ Pahura. My guest today is Todd Connor. Todd is the CEO and founder of Bunker Labs, a national entrepreneurship organization dedicated to helping military veterans and their spouses start and grow businesses. Founded in 2014 at the Innovation Hub 1871 in Chicago, Bunker Labs has grown to locations across the U.S. through a chapter affiliate model, with further expansion plans underway with a goal to have a presence in all 50 states. Bunker Labs works to support military veterans by creating locally thriving networks, robust educational programs, and platforms for military veteran entrepreneurs to connect with people, resources, and opportunities they need to be successful with early-stage ventures. Todd is a former management consultant, U.S. Navy veteran, and has held many leadership roles in the public and private sector. He is a two-time entrepreneur and the founder of the Collective Academy. Todd holds a bachelor's from Northwestern University and an MBA from the University of Chicago, and is the author of 2 books on leadership and personal strategy. His next book, The Third Shift Entrepreneur, will be published in the fall of 2019. He is also a commissioner of the Cook County Commission on Human Rights, was honored as a 2015 Crain's Chicago Business 40 Under 40, winner of the Chicago Inno 50 on Fire Award, and is a 2016 Presidential Leadership Scholar. Todd also serves as the lead facilitator for the George W. Bush Institute Stand to Veteran Leadership Challenge. Although I'm not a veteran, I cannot say enough good things about Todd Connor and the people that fight for us every day here in the United States. I will always support the military. They are without question some of the strongest leaders that we have in this country. So without further ado, folks, let's give it up for Todd Connor. Todd Connor, thank you for joining us today. Very much appreciate you being here.
Awesome. Thanks, RJ. Great to be with you.
Very well-known entrepreneur, veteran, and community builder, not just here, but nationally. Definitely want to explore your background, how you get started with Bunker, how it's expanded throughout the United States, and your background in the military and some new projects that you're working on. So,
awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So, if you can, maybe start by telling us a little bit more about Bunker.
Sure. So Bunker Labs is a not-for-profit organization that helps military veterans, military spouses, the military-connected community, including active duty, start businesses. So we started the organization 5 years ago here at 1871 in Chicago, and today we're in about 32 different markets.
Awesome.
We just opened up Rapid City in Portland, Oregon last week, and we're scaling it nationally. Our goal is to be in all 50 states by the end of our 3-year plan, which we're in about year 2 of our 3-year strategy. And the mission is really simple. It's just help the military-connected community start businesses. I was in the Navy after college. I went through the ROTC program at Northwestern and then graduated, was commissioned, and served on active duty.
Thank you for your service.
No, thank you. For me, it was just a total privilege. I mean, it was, first of all, you get your college paid for, which is great, and then you have a guaranteed job, which is great. But then, those things aside, those weren't the driving factors. You get to step into an environment, in my case, onto a ship, the USS Bunker Hill, which is sort of the namesake for the organization, Bunker Labs, with, 360
Excellent.
people all from around this country, from the nooks and crannies of this country, from, the deep south, from, the East Coast, the West Coast, to, rural communities, urban communities, folks that come from means, folks that come from very little means, and what you see in that environment is just like the raw potential of humans, that when people are given the opportunity in the right environment, like, people can be superstars irrespective of where they come from.
Right.
And, that's a powerful lesson to get when you're young. Like in my case, 22 years old, leading a group of sailors. And that's something that's carried with me to say, like, you really believe in people that don't otherwise have access. And I think you gotta, you don't always, when you come back to a place like Chicago and you go to business school and then you get into like the corporate sector, you don't always stay connected to that diversity, stay connected to that human experience. And so for me, Bunker Labs was a desire to want to say, hey, I've been down this path of starting businesses. I know what it's like at places like 1871. I know what it's like at, in the startup scene. I know what it does for me psychologically, emotionally, financially, and I want to give that opportunity to others. And so that was the thesis of why we started it 5 years ago, and that's still what drives us today.
That's incredible. So what's the why behind why you went into the military?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the why for me was, I think it's a personal decision. I joined when I was a freshman in college. I didn't know going into it that I was going to do that. I grew up in the north suburbs of Chicago. Okay. I went to New Trier High School. There's 780 kids that graduated our class. I think like 2 of us joined the military. So it was just not something that people did. It was not something that I had connection to. It's frankly not something that most Americans, if you have options, a lot of them are not choosing.
Right.
And only 1% of young people join the military. So, and that's new in our country. That's a new trend of such a small percentage sort of engaging in the military. So I was committed, I think this is partly why I've found a path as an entrepreneur, but I was committed to not just following the path, like the cookie cutter, come from the North Shore, go to good schools, come back to the North Shore, make money, rinse and repeat. Like I was just not interested in that. And so that was like personal, but I also was like, I know that there's a bigger story out here. This country is amazing. I want to understand at a deeper level what it's all about. I also want to prove to myself, but also, to the country that like I'm here to be of service. Yeah. And I think that, as a freshman, I met a guy who's wearing a military uniform. I think had I met someone that was in the Peace Corps that had had I had a moment of serendipity with somebody that was in the Peace Corps, I might have joined the Peace Corps. Had I had a moment of serendipity with somebody that was from Teach for America, I probably might have been a teacher. Yeah. So I just knew I wanted to sort of get out into the world and be of service and test myself for, what's my moral kind of true north and how can I be helpful to people? And because those are things I've believed, right? But until you're an adult, you don't have the opportunity to flex it.
Sure.
And so it's like, I believe these things, but let's go prove it to myself and to the world. And so, so I saw the military and I was like, that's really interesting. And I believe that our military is an important institution and I believe it brings people together and it serves a noble mission. And even though I don't know, like the difference between the Navy and the Army and the Marine Corps and the Air Force, like I'm in. So it was a little bit impulsive. I went and got a haircut, went home for Thanksgiving, told my parents like, hey, I joined the Navy. And my dad was like, what are you talking about? But I think that there's a sort of a controlled, impulsiveness somewhat, but serendipity, like for how things like that come together, So I'm in the world with this thesis of I want to be helpful. I want to be of service. I'm not interested in like accruing, money. It's not what, I'm interested in sort of lived experiences and then that shows up as an opportunity and I'm like, let's go. And I think I will say the reason a lot of folks join the military, in my view, is because they are interested in shifting their life's course in some way. Maybe they're trying to get away from something. Maybe they're trying to move towards something, but they're taking action. And that's why you join the military. And the last thing I'd say is, people ask, what is it in the military that helps you become a great entrepreneur? And my theory is it's actually more about the reason you joined the military in the first place. I think it's that origin intent. It's the weird thing that was going through my head as an 18-year-old that said, like, I'm going to go join the military. That is, I think, a lot of the same ethos of why you, like, later on might decide I'm going to go start a business. It's this willingness to step into something that's foreign, unknown, but if it's heart-centered, you know that it can work out. Yeah. And people that are in the military know that for themselves. And I think entrepreneurship is a little bit of that same kind of ethos.
Yeah. There's no question. Military people from the military are exceptional leaders, absolutely exceptional. Every single time that we get a chance to bring them onto our team, we do. How has it affected you or driven you into entrepreneurship?
Well, I think when you do something when you're like 24 years old, you're in the military, you're wearing the uniform, you're serving our national interests. It's so it feels so significant, right? Yeah. And by the way, it's like, it's not about the money, obviously. It's not about anything else. there's significance, and the significance comes from a mission that matters. It comes from being on a team where everyone's playing their part.
Yeah.
And that level of significance is felt whether you're standing, officer of the deck on the USS Bunker Hill, whether you're working in the mess kitchen, whether you're, painting the third deck. It's you're part of the team, and it matters. What you're doing matters because it's part of how the cumulative thing gets to go to market. So, and do its mission. So when you leave the military, you leave that ethos of like, I'm pursuing an important mission. I'm part of a team that's got my back. I'm part of a team that matters. And it doesn't matter what my job, I don't have to be a superstar.
Right.
I just need to know that like I'm on a team that we like operate with a bond for each other, and that what we're doing collectively matters. And my contribution to that is not first and foremost. It's the mission of the whole that is really what drives this. So you don't get that in the civilian sector very often.
Yeah.
And I miss that. And that was the loss of getting out of the military. It's that loss of purpose.
And probably just immediately jumping into a team, right?
Oh yeah.
And having, they become your family, right?
Immediately.
Yeah.
Right. And you just, whatever feels hard, you just have to work through. Because when you're at sea for 9 months,
no other option.
You just don't have options.
Yeah.
And so it's like, this is your family, get used to it and learn to love them. And you do. And it actually happens pretty quickly. And so I think all that lingers as like a loss when you get out of the military. And to me, like entrepreneurship is sort of the remedy. It's like, well, can I create a team for myself that lives the values that I know matter to me? Can I pursue an important mission that I think matters? And I think you can find that with certain great companies, exceptional companies, I think can offer that. I think to be an exceptional company, you do those two things. You pursue a mission and you develop a team and an ethos that's like family. And I think great companies do that. And I think to be an entrepreneur is the chance to like do that for yourself. So, for me, it's about pursuing things that feel important, that solve an important problem that matters to me. And, that's what Running the Bunker is. And that's what Collective Academy was. That's what Emerson House is. And the businesses I've started are sort of, hopefully with that ethos. And it's for me, it's the selfishness of being able to show up and go to work and do it with people that I love and pursue missions that are important. I mean, it's ultimately like, selfishly, like that's the reward I get. But it's, I think, what a lot of us are looking for.
It's incredible. So I want to get into the why of Bunker a little bit more, but first, for those for the audience that does not know, which they should, Bunker's everywhere at this point. When did you start in Chicago? Was it 2014?
Yeah, it's 2014.
Yeah,
I started.
I do
in
remember
Chicago.
that.
Yeah. No, we had an announcement. It was at the Pat Tillman Foundation luncheon that we announced it, and we had the mayor and the governor and J.B. Pritzker and lots of folks supportive. Howard Tillman. We had a great network of support, corporate sponsors that jumped in quickly. And I think when you start something, like I did not start this with an ambition to say this ought to be in all 50 states. It was like more of the question mark. Like, look, I'm here. If other military veterans want to start businesses, I want to help you.
It's incredible.
And that was just sort of like you send up the smoke signal,
right,
and see what comes back. And by the way, I've sent up smoke signals for lots of things where there's no response back, right? And that's part of, I think, being the entrepreneur is just like you've got an awareness of what could be. But in this case, sent up the smoke signal and a lot came back. 60 people reached out and were like, "Man, I'm interested. I have a business, but I need help, or I'm thinking about starting a business, and I would love to."
This was year one?
Connect in. Yeah, year one.
Okay.
So almost immediately we had something in Chicago that felt like, okay, there's a demand signal that we're getting.
Yeah.
And a not-for-profit is a three-sided enterprise where you've got donors, right, that have to fund the thing, and then you've got your customers who are the people that you're serving. So you need demand signals from both. And we got demand signals from both. Wintrust came in and was our first sponsor, and then other folks showed up and supported as well. And so... and now now we're in, like we said, 32 cities where we have chapters, and it's we have about 28 folks on staff and about 140 volunteer city leaders who help kind of drive the mission from there.
It's been incredible to watch too. It's like you said, get former veterans together, they get the job done, they execute the mission, as you said. What was that experience like growing it, and how did you grow it? Did you find thought leaders in those other cities? Did they come to you? And what's that journey sort of been like?
Yeah. Well, yeah, so we started in Chicago, and almost immediately we got inquiries from people in other cities, from Austin, Texas, from Washington, D.C., from Seattle, people that were like, hey, I think what you're doing is awesome. We're doing something maybe similar over here. How do we partner? Or I've been thinking about starting something, but I'd rather just do it as a part of the Bunker Labs versus my own brand. And so it was a lot of inbound demand, and we strung it together, and it really was predicated on trust and culture. And I would say to people, like, here's the deal, like, let me send you the logo files. Just respect this. Like, if you screw this up, then it sort of hurts us, and vice versa, right? So it's this sort of brotherhood and sisterhood of like locked arms across the country.
Excellent.
Like, we're going to do this together. And there's a level of professionalism that comes with the military community that is frankly not always replicable in other communities. I mean, that's our secret. That's our distinct advantage, is that everyone, if has had their ass chewed in the military for getting it wrong. So that there are standards for behavior that you must adhere to. And that level of professionalism and frankly hard work and trust that's our secret weapon. And that's how we're able to scale. And so, we cobbled together 14 chapters, and it was people individually, locally, launching these things in Kansas City and, San Diego and markets around the country. And then we kind of rolled it all up and about 2 years ago, nationalized it under one 501c3. We said, because we're beginning to have friction, 14 independent 501c3s, independently trying to raise money, independently sort of going to market. And we pulled the group together, and I was like, look, I think the better strategy in this moment is to nationalize the organization, roll it all under one 501c3, roll it, have one national board, one fundraising kind of engine.
And what year was that?
That was 2 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. And the team got together, and I was like, if you see it different, if you think there's a better answer, tell me.
Yeah.
But it's not about my ego. It's not about I just think this is the smarter solution right now. And everyone was like, yep, that's the answer. And we move forward. So I think strategy with a startup is a lot of it has to be discovered, right? You could look at that moment and say, oh, that means that you guys got it wrong because you had this distributed autonomy network that you then had to correct and pull together nationally or centralize. That's one narrative. Or the narrative is like you had the right strategy to scale, and then you had the right next strategy to sort of realize the next opportunity. And by the way, like we'll have a new strategy in 2 years, and it could be distributed again.
Right.
I don't know. But strategy is discovered, I think, and you can talk about, PowerPoints, and we had pro bono consultants along the way, and we had smart folks looking at it. At the end of the day, it's about trust, and it's about culture, and it's about, as a leader for me, and this is what I wake up every day and try to, adhere to, and I don't always, but is like, am I the leader, for the long term for the people in this organization? You've got to view people as long-term partners, far beyond when they leave the organization. It's not just about the moment that you've got them. It's like, no, it's like, I need to have loved you before, during, and after, because everyone sees what that is. And then this is therefore an organization that can earn their trust, because things are going to go wrong. You're going to screw up tons of stuff all the time. But people have to know that I'm in an organization where people care, and they're going to care far beyond, hopefully my finite contribution. And again, we don't always get that right, but I think that has to be our ethos. It's one of our, core organizational values.
Yeah.
And you look at companies, not to create the counterpoint, but a part of what I'm sad about in this country today is when you look at the startup culture, it's just the bad behavior. It's like people have not learned. We're reading about Away in the news. We're, all these examples. I'm like, people haven't been
locally.
Locally bad behavior. It's like people haven't been to finishing school.
Right.
So I look at the military community and I go, man, things that I take for granted, like professionalism, honesty, that you're going to care about people, that you're going to like work hard, just that you're going to respect people, just human decency, right? Like it's like those things turn out maybe to be real assets in this moment. So I look at that and I'm like, great, that's great news for the veteran community because they bring those things naturally. And that ought to be the future. I mean, I'd like to see, we need those folks to win in the marketplace. And I think increasingly we're going to have a sensitivity to what's the ethical and the moral compass of the folks leading these organizations, and are we good with that? I mean, it's got to matter. It does matter. It drives the business, and so I'm sad by some of the stories, but I'm also happy to see the elevation of maybe that as a cornerstone of the conversation.
Absolutely. Great points. So a little bit more for the folks that don't know about Bunker. What is Bunker? How do entrepreneurs engage? Why do they engage?
Yeah. So our goal is to help the military-connected community start businesses. 25% of transitioning military service members want to start their own business, but only about 4% are doing it today. So that's the gap. That's what we're trying to solve. So we are very focused on the idea stage entrepreneur, like left of center in terms of the conversation. Like we want to be early in the conversation. We want to meet you while you're still wearing the uniform, still deployed, and say, hey, I know you're thinking about getting out. Entrepreneurship could be a path. Yeah. Maybe it's not today. It's probably not your first job out of the military, but it might be your second. And let's begin to get you thinking about that. How do we get you thinking about that? We tell you lots of stories. We do a ton of storytelling about, look, here's people like you. E5, Air Force, got out, African American, went back home to his communities doing this, you know? And so our goal is that we tell lots of stories that inspire people that, hey, people like me are doing stuff like that. You know, if we think entrepreneurship is Shark Tank and Mark Zuckerberg, then like we self-select out because we don't see a path for ourselves. Right. So diversity, storytelling, keeping it simple, keeping it like plain, like the language, you know, it's so important because I can get confused. You know, I mean, I go to stuff, I'm like, you know, fund. I'm like, I don't understand. I mean, I'm learning sort of like a venture-backed company. How does that work? You know, what's the, you know, and I have an MBA, right? Yeah. So it's so this stuff's hard. So I think our job is to sort of meet them where they're at, create a safe environment for the dumb questions, which turn out not to be that dumb.
Absolutely.
They're actually the right questions.
There's got to be a place to start.
Yeah. Yeah. And so our programming model is anchored around that. So we run 4 programs. We have an online program called Launch Lab Online, where people walk through what we call the Me Canvas, which is a self-assessment of, is entrepreneurship right for me? Personally, financially, is my spouse on board? And do I have an idea worth pursuing, right? So if I'm getting out of the Air Force as a radio technician and I want to go open up a restaurant, you know, hey, have you ever worked in a restaurant? Do you understand, you know, restaurant management? You know, it's like, well, no. Okay, then pause. This might not be the right idea for you yet. Go work at a restaurant at night on the weekends. So it's the Me Canvas, it's the business model canvas. Then we walk them through the business model canvas, but we explain it like Barney style. Hey, here's the business model canvas. Here's the levers of any functioning business, you know? Question 1, you know, what's your competitive advantage, right? And then you walk them through it. So that's online. That's our first program, Launch Lab Online. It's free and available.
Awesome.
You can go to launchlabonline.org and sign up today. We run a monthly networking event called Bunker Brews in all 32 markets. It's a great event.
I think I've been to one.
What's that?
I think I've been to one.
Oh, yeah, you've been to a couple of them. Yeah, exactly. And, you know, it's just a good time. And it's people like, hey, get together. These are folks that are thinking about starting businesses or have, and we gotta know each other. It's like a modern day kind of chamber of commerce, but focused on the veteran community. We run a program called Bunker Connect, which is sort of a supercharged version of that, where we help people connect to mentors and people that can help them on their path. And then we run a program in partnership with WeWork called the Veterans in Residence Program. It's a 6-month incubation program. We run it in 17 cities today. It'll be 25 cities next year. It's competitive. You apply. We take 10 people per city. So there's 170 entrepreneurs going through that program right now.
It's incredible.
Military veterans, military spouses. And 40% of them generate revenue throughout the course of that 6 months, their first revenue, which is pretty awesome. And then the last program we have is called CEO Circle, and it's like a mastermind group of veterans that are running small businesses that are successful and growing, and they still want a community to kind of connect in with. Because, you know, even as you're growing a business, as you know, with your success, RJ, and what you've done with Fund, you still need support. You know, the questions are just new and different, but you still need support.
Absolutely. What else inspired you, aside from the numbers, the 25% that want to start businesses? What really inspired you to start Bunker?
Mm-hmm. Well, for me, and I didn't know the 25% number. I mean, I've sort of had to back into some of these arguments. What drove me at the start was it breaks my heart. It's actually, I think for me, it's like, it's heart-centered more than anything, but it breaks my heart that someone who has sort of a good human who has worked hard and played by the rules by virtue of where they come from, by virtue of the fact that they're in the military, it is not a talent gap. It's like I've
Right.
been with these people at sea. I've lived with them. I've eaten with them. They have become like my family.
Yes.
And like by virtue of the zip code that I grew up in, like I'm able to kind of move on and up and to the right and however you want to describe that. So for me, it breaks my heart that you serve in the military and that that you get out and that you might believe that your best years were behind you.
Yeah.
I think it's like if we think that's true, then why would anybody join the military? Why would we? And then what's the implication if we don't have a strong military for this country? It's devastating.
Yeah.
Or what's the implication if we have a military that only 1% of the country knows? That's problematic. It's the beginning of the end of a healthy democracy. So the stakes on this, in my view, are very high. Our vision statement, our mission is to help the military-connected community start businesses, but our vision is to empower the dreams of the military community. And I think my hope is that people get out of the military and they don't think that their best years are behind them, that they actually see that their best years are ahead of them. And entrepreneurship is self-determination. To me, it's a powerful path for that. And so that's what matters to me is that, it's in the lived experience, it's in the lives, it's what's felt in the hearts of the folks that have served this country.
That's incredible. Well, thank you. And you're making moves. I mean, I don't know of any other organization that is supporting veterans in entrepreneurship like yours. So
thank you.
Thank you. It's making a difference in the world, really. What's new or next for you in 2020 with Bunker?
Yeah. So part of what's new and next is to not have too much that's new and next, other than doing our 3-year
That can be good.
Which is a discipline, actually. Because we've had a lot of new and next in the past 5 years, but
and a lot of growth.
Yeah, and a lot of growth. I mean, we are diligent to this 3-year strategy. Like I said, we're about halfway through it, and so we have a roadmap between now and Q2 of 2021 of when and where we're going to launch chapters. We're going to launch 8 new chapters in Q1 of 2020. And we have we have a team and a playbook for how we do that. So we feel like we've really gotten good at that and understand how to do it. We still make mistakes, but
what do you look for when you are starting these? Is it any certain part of the military?
When we start a chapter?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good question. So we did a study with Deloitte around economic indicators and population indicators of cities. So we actually have a dynamic model where we can look at because the question for us is like, hey, we're coming to the state of New Hampshire, what's the right city? Or we're coming to the state of Florida, what's the right city to start? The demand signals are huge. We have a waiting list of like 70 plus cities that have reached out and said, how do we bring Bunker Labs to, Rapid City? How do we bring it to Minneapolis? How do we, So that's how we've gone to market is like by invitation. But we have a model that has 3 dynamic indicators. 1 is looking at veteran population. 2 is looking, because that's obviously who we serve.
Yeah,
so that
absolutely.
matters. 2, and also the age of that population. Are they moving in? Are they moving out? The second indicator for us is entrepreneurial index. So the Kaufman kind of entrepreneurial index. There's other economic indicators for entrepreneurship activity, university density, research dollars, other things. So that's a variable. And then the third variable that's inside of our dynamic model is kind of corporate strength. And so the Brookings Growth Index. So just like, is this a healthy city and community? Because if those 3 conditions are met, then you can sort of support the veterans in the right way. And so we have that dynamic model. We ran it through a series of scenarios and came out with here's the right cities for us to expand into.
Awesome.
And that's what's driving our growth strategy.
Incredible. Anything else that's exciting for 2020 with Bunker?
I think that
you can talk about?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's all exciting. I mean, our goal is to sort of grow the organization, but it's also to live our values. We only exist because we have local city leaders, 3 per city, who volunteer their time. We give them a budget, we give them the playbook, all the things they need to be successful. But it's those folks that are just unbelievably inspiring. That we're going to have by the end of the year 220, ground soldiers who are, and I'm deeply respectful of them and thankful for them, who are like going to carry the banner and say, yeah, I'll get this thing going in Las Vegas. I'll get this thing going in Phoenix. And they do the heavy lift, and they are, entrepreneurs, but they are finding time, carving out time as entrepreneurs, as military veterans, as entrepreneurs, to still give back. And so I think it's that peer-led nature of what we're doing that's exciting. And I would expect that 2020 will yield some some big surprises for kind of the upside potential. Because really, in my view, the real opportunity, here's why Silicon Valley is hard. This will be my parting thought, because I know your audience is entrepreneurs. Silicon Valley, more than anything, yes, it's where like a disproportionate amount of the money is, but the reason the money is there is because they have a tightly knit network.
Right.
It's a incredibly inefficient marketplace to connect in with venture dollars. It's super inefficient. Like, you can sit with a venture capitalist and they'll have like a real rigor to how they're deciding on deals. But the question everyone struggles to answer is like, but why? How do you know that the deals that you get presented are the best deals? You know, It's like, I know how you get from the 200 deals that end up on your desk to the 10 deals that you invest in, but no one knows how the 200 deals that end up on their desk. It's like, hey, so-and-so emailed this to me. But there's so much social capital that goes into how we're choosing sort of winners in this ecosystem. But that's a solvable problem. And so to me, the antidote to social capital is scale. So if we can say, hey, Bunker Labs is in 50 states and 70 chapters. And if we can say, hey, we have access to 4,000 pitch decks a year. If you're an investor, like, you can't not pay attention, right? Like we talked about Wall Street, too big to fail. My hope for the military communities, and Bunker Labs can play a role in this, is that we're too big to ignore. Yeah. So it's like, if you're an investor interested in health IT, you're like, we ought to take a look at Bunker Labs, because they at least have.
I think you already are
talking to thousands of folks in lots of markets. Yeah. That's the antidote. That's how we. So scale, in my view, it's not an ego play. It's about the leverage that we can create for the community by having a giant distribution network that therefore, gives you a seat at the table when you're talking to Andreessen Horowitz and other folks to say, here are some things that you should take a look at, because we've created efficiency in the marketplace, which most incubators, and ESOs, struggle to do. So I think that's our path.
Yeah, we've done an incredible job. You guys are a force. So. Real quick, we got 1 minute left. What is, I know we talked a little bit about before, this retreat center in Indiana. Do you want to take 30 seconds and talk about that? I know it's something that's near and dear to your heart so far.
Sure. So Bunker Labs is sort of my day job, but then my husband and I, we spend a lot of time in Indiana on the weekends. It's about an hour away from downtown Chicago. And, I think like you and I talk about this all the time, RJ, but you just, you have ideas, right? So you're seeing stuff and wondering. So we bought this bed and breakfast that's out there, and we see an opportunity. What I'm seeing is young people in the city who need mental health outlets, who need to get off of Instagram for a weekend, who need farm-to-table meals, who need to get their hands dirty, cut down trees, like all these kind of basic things that define our humanity that actually we're really kind of disconnected from. And I think that this is to me, I think it's a crisis actually. So we said, hey, let's create a physical environment where people can kind of come, Soho design inspired, but at the same time a very sort of local connected experience where we can bring people in 20 at a time and give them something that's deep, soulful, nature connected, put the phones away. So it's called Emerson House. It's also, right now we're doing a lot of private events like weddings and things like that because people are wanting that. But the vision is really to create this environment, a new kind of model that's an alternative to what last generation might have wanted in a country club. But I think this generation wants something different. Yeah. So so it's our I guess it's our hobby project, but I'm back at it as an entrepreneur being like, oh man, I'm
never
in
stops,
man. Online doing the business model campus, trying to figure it out. So
awesome. Well, again, thanks for joining today. Thanks for telling us a little bit more about Bunker, your journey as a leader and an entrepreneur, and currently what you're working on. So thank you for your service and leadership.
Thanks, RJ. Thanks for what you're doing to help entrepreneurs.
And one other thing, where can people find you online?
Yeah, bunkerlabs.org.
Okay.
And you can find me at todd.connor@bunkerlabs.org.
Excellent. Thanks again.
Thanks, buddy.
You're listening to The Ecosystem, where we talk with the world's most exceptional entrepreneurs, investors, and emerging growth companies who are all making a difference in the world. This is your host, RJ Pahura, with our special guest today, Todd Connor. For more information, go to fundecosystem.com. Thanks for listening, and until next time, folks.